Hello, everyone. This is the random podcast of Awesomeness.
Indeed it
I,
is.
I am Shadow Wolf, and with me today we have
Good at 14, as always and still.
yes. Now this is our second attempt at this.
Because unfortunately, I fucked up with the last time we did this.
But that's okay because we're here again. So we played the game Forsaken 64 for the Nintendo 64. It was actually originally ported from the PC, and we'll be talking about how that sort of makes a difference a little later. This game, from the title of it, you probably wouldn't figure it out, but it is it's a first-person shooter. You're in a spaceship.
Actually, when I first heard of it, I thought, oh, might this be a third-person horror game? Because there were a lot of horror games on the N64.
Yes, and if you look at the title art of the actual game, it sort of looks like it would be.
Mm-hmm. But no, Forsaken is a first-person pilot game, which actually makes a lot more sense to be on the PC. But the N64 controller, assuming that you have one, would probably feel very nice here.
Now, we did not have N64 controllers for this game.
Indeed, so I ended up using a keyboard, and
Yes.
although the controls feel awkward when emulating an N64 on a keyboard, like Z is actually Z for some stupid reason, it worked. It worked fine, honestly. I didn't feel it was so awkward that I couldn't play.
Yeah, it wasn't too bad. I mean, it plays like a flight sort of game. There are different vehicles with different stats, and each of them plays a little differently depending on what you're doing. But you'll notice that a lot of these vehicles go from fast to faster.
Yeah, several of them do have acceleration problems, but the main problem that I'd like to bring up is that even though these vehicles do have various stats, there's nothing in game that tells you about their various stats.
Yes.
But I think we're getting a little bit ahead of ourselves because we haven't really explained much about the story of Forsaken.
Yes. Forsaken takes place in a future apocalyptic scenario where there is lots of death. And there is... Let me actually just get it up real quick. I will read what it says.
Well, for the purposes of the story, you are a member of the Forsaken, and Earth has been condemned.
Yes.
As one of the survivors of Earth's apocalypse, and being a member of the Forsaken, you are cast into a gladiatorial arena combat where you use your crafted craft. Yes, your crafted craft, as opposed to your spontaneously out of the freaking ether craft, to go around and defeat various opponents. And complete several missions, although the missions thing doesn't come in until later.
Right. So, this is actually... I'm pulling this right from Wikipedia. It says, in the distant future, the advancement of science has exceeded humanity's ability to control it. During a subatomic experiment, an accident causes an uncontrollable fusion reaction, utterly destroying the surface of the planet Earth. 1 year later, Earth has been classified as condemned by the ruling imperial theocracy, meaning that it is now legal for anyone to salvage anything left on the planet. Mercenaries from all over come to raid the dead planet, forced to battle not only each other, but the robot sentinels that the government has left behind.
Well, that doesn't appear in the actual gameplay at all.
No, it does not.
You see, there's a lot of disconnect between the actual story of this and the gameplay. And although it's not actually that big of a deal, I feel it's worth mentioning, simply because there really isn't a story to this game. There's one painted on the box and on the Wikipedia, but you'll never see any of those elements come into play.
Yeah, if you have this game with the manual, you might have a story. We did not have a manual.
Indeed. As a matter of fact, the manual story is probably different than the one that you see on the Wikia.
It might be. So yeah, as we were saying, this game pretty much plays how you would expect. You have your accelerate, your reverse, you have your bombs and grenades and your firepower.
Yes, your primary and secondary weapons.
Yes.
Your primary weapons consist mainly of energy-based weapons like beams and other particle projectiles.
And throughout the game, you can pick up different power-ups.
Yes, scattered across the map,
Yes.
there will be various power-ups, including energy refills. We'll get back to that. Health and shield refills, as well as different weapons that you can pick up. These different weapons you can switch through using the D-pad as opposed to the C-stick, and you use the not C-stick, but the C buttons to strafe. That's
Yes,
about the only
because
thing that I could really see being awkward on the N64, the strafing.
yeah, but yes, because the C-stick did not come out until the Wii.
Nah, GameCube.
Oh, GameCube. That's right. C buttons were on the N64.
Each of the weapons actually handle significantly differently as well. For
And
example,
depending on each vehicle.
your basic particle weapon is just a rather slow moving projectile that hurts decently hard, but isn't going to kill anything all that quickly, depending on your vehicle, of course. Your vehicles
Right.
actually do on one of the vehicle stats that's impacted is actually overall weapon damage, which I find to be really odd.
But hey, that's the way the game plays. Now this game has a multiplayer mode.
That we really wish we could have played.
It
Sadly,
does.
we don't actually communicate enough during the week to set up a LAN connection to do it.
If we could have, I think we would have, but we did not. It also has a single player, which is what we had to pretty much go through.
Hmm.
It has you go through and there's different levels with different scenarios that you have to do. For
Yes.
example, in the first one, there are so many enemies and you have to kill them all.
Yes, the first one, you're an actual gladiator. Go kill everything. Second one, we need you to nuke this research base and get back out alive. Can you do that? Maybe.
Yes.
As of the second mission, you start to notice one major problem that the game actually has. There's no map.
There is no map whatsoever.
And it clearly looks as though a map was supposed to be on the HUD, but there just simply isn't one. And and with the second mission, that gets very, very distracting because you're like, okay, I've been in this room before, but have I left all the doors yet and explored the entire area? Probably not. And without a map, you can't really tell that.
It would be nice if there was even a radar, but we don't even have that.
Yes, a radar would have been nice in place of a map, but honestly, I don't think a radar would have helped all that much. A
Right.
map, on the other hand, would have been freaking amazing.
Because usually when there's an enemy around, you usually know.
Yes, mainly because they're either firing at you or you saw them and are firing at them.
Right.
Thankfully, the enemy AI is not really cheap or unfair in this game, at least, on the standard difficulty setting.
There are easy, normal, and hard difficulty settings that can be accessed in the game, and whether you defeat the level in a certain amount of time depends on what kind of difficulty you'll be going through.
Yes. Also known as the difficulties pretty much function as added time limits.
Right.
Don't play this game on the standard difficulty setting, especially with certain missions like mission 2. Without a map, especially on your first time, you're not going to know where the fuck to go, and I think a time limit is really just a hindrance at that point.
Now the single player mode has there's 15 levels, and one of the big things is we did not have a save feature for this game. You need a memory card for this
Yes,
game.
you need the N64 expansion pack in order to be able to save in
Yes.
this title, which for some reason our emulators did not emulate.
I mean, maybe we missed something, but it didn't. We felt it didn't matter too much because it's sort of like an arcade game the way the game plays.
Right.
But unlike an arcade game, when you die and you go back to the beginning.
Well, no, that's exactly what an arcade game does. When you have, well, because there isn't a continue function,
Right.
you get a game over, you're kicked back to the main menu.
And you are given 3 lives at the beginning of the game. And later on in the game, you can actually get up to 5 lives, but that is the most you are going to be able to have. And keeping those lives throughout 15 different missions is going to be quite difficult.
Yes. Mainly because even though the enemies in themselves on the standard difficulty aren't all that difficult to take down, it's still a pilot game, and you're still expected to know how to aim with the rather loose flying controls. The controls aren't so loose that it feels like that you can't fly, but they're loose enough to give you problems, especially when it comes to aiming down the crosshair.
Yes. Now, in this game, like we were saying with the map, there is no map, and there are spots in the game where it's kind of hard to know where you're going, and some spots are sort of hidden in the way that they're put in.
Yes.
So like with the flying, you might have to feel around a little while to be able to find where you're supposed to go.
Mm-hmm. Thankfully, there is no collision damage on the walls.
Yes, that would be horrible. So yes, navigating can be quite cumbersome at times.
Mainly because, again, there is no map. There should be a cheat code that puts a mini map on, but no, there is no map.
No.
It's like there is no cow level, except there is no map, and you really want there to be a map.
Did you want to talk more about some of the items, the weapons?
Kind of. My personal favorite of the primary weapons is the Trojax beam. It's a charge weapon that, at full charge, can pretty much one-shot any of the enemies you face. It eats a lot of weapon energy, so I recommend you personally take Trucker, which is a rather slow vehicle, so it's pretty easy to handle, and it also has a lot of armor and a lot of weapon energy. If you want a more challenging and rewarding game experience, a standard vehicle. I think it's Oshira. I can't remember its name. I really can't.
Yeah, I can't remember most of them. There's quite a few.
There's at least 10 vehicles, and they all handle differently.
There's like 10 of them.
But take Trucker. Trucker is a very easy to get used to vehicle. Oh, and don't use the purge mines. You'll find the purge mines as early as the first level. Don't use them. You cannot go fast enough to get out of the purge mines' explosive range unless you're already moving.
Yes, you should use those as sparingly as you can.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of different weapons. I only wish that they were explained a little better. I mean, you can figure it out by playing around with it. But the one thing about quite a few of these weapons is they have limited ammunition.
Well, weapon energy. Your vehicles
Right.
have a weapon energy limit.
Right.
And each shot of a weapon takes off a specific amount of weapon energy. So, yeah. Weapon energy as a concept is pretty cool, but I really wish it had a natural recharge. I never found myself running out of weapon energy, but it was still something that I was constantly worried about.
Yeah. And like, as long as you're shooting the enemies, you're pretty much okay. But just don't go shooting around just because it's gonna run out.
Yeah, don't waste your ammo.
Did we talk about the charge?
I don't think so.
Which is actually a very cool weapon. It sets out a large charge, which takes up a little energy, but it works very well.
Are you sure that's not the Trojax?
Well, maybe yeah, okay, yeah. Any other weapons that you can think of right off the top of your head you want to mention?
Just your starting
Yeah.
weapon is alright, and you can go through the levels with it, and your starting secondary weapon, the Mug Missiles, do their job fine, although I never found myself intending to use them against enemies. But once you get access to the Trojacks and once you get access to the Trojacks and a better secondary weapon, you'll have to experiment around with it to define what is better for your particular taste. But yeah, you should end up using Trojacks constantly, simply because it again one shots most of the enemy types, except for mini bosses, which 10 shots those.
Right.
There are mini bosses, and there are actually interesting encounters, especially if you do them the legitimate way, where they're constantly spawning these smaller guys at you. It's really supposed to test your piloting skill. Mind you, the first mini boss you can just go up. The first mini boss, which appears in level 2, you can just go behind him and he'll never spawn anything at you. Spam the Trojacks at him and he's dead. The game is by no means perfect when it comes to design, but it has few enough flaws to where they don't really seem to hinder it that much.
Now, Gerdat and I didn't get very far in this game.
Again, we lacked a save feature. I was only able to complete up to mission 2. I am very sad about this, which is why the first time we were doing this, I said that this is an amazing game as a demo.
Yeah, it's a fun game. If you have a memory card expansion for this game, I recommend using it. Since Gerdat said he only got the first 2, I got the first 4.
Mm-hmm. Thus proving once again that Shadow is a better gamer than I am.
Flattery will get you nowhere. Yeah, if you can use that feature, I recommend it. This is a fun game, so if you can get through it, that's great. I don't know how much harder it gets throughout the game. We didn't get that far, but I'm assuming from what I've actually read that it gets pretty hard towards the end of the game.
That's what it seems like, because even in Mission 2, where you start to get some of that difficulty creep, it seems like, yeah, this game could get much harder, especially if they want to be a bit more dickish with the enemy placement.
That and
a few of the enemy types, like, the invisible ones.
Yes, there are invisible enemy types.
I'm glad I didn't get that far in, because this might have turned into another Bomberman thing at that point.
Now, like I said, we played this on the N64. I'm kind of curious to see how much better this actually would have been on PC.
As am I, but since the last time that we recorded this, I haven't actually gone to look that up yet. I really should, though.
Yes, we probably should have, especially since the first time we tried recording this, we already talked about most of this stuff. Now, visually, this game, it looks like an N64 game.
Yes, it looks like an early N64 PS1 title. I'm not sure if that's what it's supposed to look like. Honestly, I think it's supposed to look like a late N64 PS1 title, but it looks fun. Honestly, I like a lot of the textures that we see here. None of the enemies are that hard to locate, except for maybe a couple of the cannon enemies. But even then, that's just one out of the multiple of any enemy types.
Now, it actually says that it came out for the N64 in '98.
So early then, or mid at least.
Yeah.
Because the N64 didn't really die off until like 2001.
Somewhere around there, yeah. But for what it looks like, it's pretty okay for what it is. I wouldn't say it has stunning graphics. They're good for the N64. What you would expect like an early N64 game to look like. The sprites for the enemies are...
Well, models, actually. They are models, I promise.
Oh, yes, they are models. I just like using the word sprite.
Yes, sprites sounds better than models.
They all look solid. They look like actual ships and whatnot. Mm-hmm. You can tell what they are. And the backgrounds, you have a good idea of what everything is.
Yes. It's very rare to find yourself guessing, is that a door or not?
Which this game does have that going on. I wish that there was a little some way to distinguish a few things like that, because you might be going around in circles trying to figure out some things.
Mission 2 is really bad about that. Have I been here yet? Oh god, I've been here already. Have I been here yet? Probably. God damn it, I'm lost. And you just keep flying around in the same circle of 4 rooms.
Which is why, like, we have repeated, this game would
This game
benefit.
needs a map!
Yes, this game would benefit from a map, so big time. I mean, everything looks alright for the most part.
Yes, and for the most part, everything sounds alright, too. The sound effects for your laser and particle blasts sound nice. Explosions actually sound nice. But in particular, I really dug the soundtrack for the pieces that I listened to. It's rather generic techno pieces, but they're very good generic techno pieces. I kind of wish there was a greater variety in them, because there's like one piece per music track.
Yeah.
There's one piece per mission, I think they're on like a 2-minute loop, and you'll start to notice those loops relatively early on.
Now, something kind of interesting about the soundtrack that I'm actually reading is that it was actually released on on an actual album. So if
Ooh. We should go demo that.
Yes. I guess it's by The Swarm, Dominic Glynn, and Stephen Root.
Huh. You know, The Swarm just sounds like a band that would make techno music.
They do sound like that.
We discussed that this game actually has multiplayer elements, and I've actually seen on a recent BSC video that people were like, "Hey, this would make the Superman 64's multiplayer, yes, Superman 64 has multiplayer, is pretty much a very poorly rendition of Forsaken's multiplayer."
Yes.
I didn't even know that Superman 64 had multiplayer.
I don't know that I'd want to know that it had multiplayer.
I'm sorry, I can't do the memory curse on you. But yeah, I honestly feel that this would be a really good game to play multiplayer.
No, I think this would be a lot of fun multiplayer. There are 6 different types of games for multiplayer.
Yes.
There is a free-for-all, team game, capture the flag, flag chase, bounty hunt, and team bounty hunt. And it says that there are also sub-options for each of those games. So you have, like, a death match and other sort of games, which would have been fun to play multiplayer.
This game sports more multiplayer modes than Star Fox does. Huh.
Yes, it does. No, I think this would have been great multiplayer. I know that you can play multiplayer against the PC.
Ooh.
Though I think I would have had more fun playing with a real person multiplayer than the PC.
Yeah.
What's crazy is if you choose a PC, they have difficulty settings as well.
That's not really that crazy, because Perfect Dark had that as well, where you could actually adjust the competency of the bots.
Well, not that, but the fact that its default setting is nails.
Okay.
It's actually, like, that's the hardest setting.
Oh. Jeez.
So if you decide to do that, you might want to go down to easy or something.
Yes. I think we've actually covered almost everything.
We've covered most everything. We actually took more time in our last review, but now that we've actually sort of formulated how everything is, it just kind of goes together really quickly.
Yeah.
I hate condensing it for you guys, because we had a good conversation with the last one.
Yes, we did. But unfortunately, I fucked up with recording, so... Alright, I guess we gotta go into our gripes then, because we do have some gripes that are not just the map. This is mainly because I didn't get to play... I didn't actually play it all that much, due to, other factors going on and, sheer laziness. But, I kind of wish that we had more weapon types strewn about the map. It would have seemed like it would have been, more like that arena shooter that it's clearly trying to be, at least in the arena shooter section. If we had more weapon types to play around with, there doesn't seem to be more than 10 weapon types, and that is definitely a small thing. I also find that the lack of a continue feature, Sans expansion pack, really does hurt the game's replay.
Yeah.
It gets, when you end up getting a game over, it gets very difficult to go and keep continuing. Imagine Rayman Legends, which did away with the live system. If there was no continue option, or at least a pseudo continue option in Rayman Legends, no one would play that game. As it turns out, with the continue option there, everyone loves the thing. Does away with lives and has a lot of checkpoints. Now, there is a checkpoint system in the single-player campaign, and I'm thankful for it. But because there isn't a continue system, I feel that this was made to be on arcade, at least the solo player experience was designed to be an arcade machine, and this would have eaten some major amount of quarters.
Yes, it would have been.
That's one of my only real main gripes about single player. I can get around the fact that there isn't a radar, but a map would have been fucking amazing. And a continue option sans memory pack would have been even better. That's really my only gripe, aside from the limited amount of pieces per mission. But that's something that I have to suffer through because I'm not good at the game.
Right. As for me, I know you mentioned it before, Gernat, but I just wanted to throw it out again. There are no stats for the vehicles.
Yes, the vehicles not having displayed stats, even if they're fictional stats, that would have made it so that we could have picked our favorite vehicles by their potential role as opposed to what they look like.
Right.
Because Trucker doesn't actually look that great. It seriously looks like it seriously just looks like a motorcycle with a sidecar. That's all it really looks like. But after playing with him and comparing it with Oshira, I would recommend Trucker over almost any of the other vehicles.
I mean, not that it really matters what your vehicle looks like too much in a first-person shooter.
True.
But it would be nice to have included something to show you that there are differences between each vehicle.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you'll figure it out once you start playing, and you might end up picking one of the faster ones, and you'll just have a hard time controlling it because you'll just be going everywhere.
Right.
Which is why it's nicer to pick one of the slower vehicles because you have more control. And if you could know that right away, that would have been great.
Right.
Now, I mentioned the life system. I wish either there was a continue system or something, because getting all the way to, say, level 15, the last level, and dying with your 5 lives, and the fact that your lives don't respawn after each level, you keep what last had, is crazy.
Yeah.
And for you to be able to get all the way through the game with those lives, it's just crazy. I wish that could have been done a little better. When you save the game with the memory, it leaves off where you left off, so you still have the same amount of lives where you last left off.
Mm-hmm.
It would have been nice for us to have the memory, but that was something wrong with our software. I can't really put it against us, against the game, I mean.
Right.
But it would have been nice if it had the save feature built into the cart instead of doing it that way. And like Gerdat said, the map, that would have made a major improvement. Mm-hmm. Also, the sound effects were okay. They were just they were stereotypical, like gunshot sounds, explosions.
Yep.
Not that that's a gripe or anything, but I just wanted to point that out that that those sounds weren't necessarily as special as the soundtrack itself.
Indeed. But with that, I think we're coming up on our final thoughts.
Yes.
I really like this game as a demo. That's mainly how I played it. But if with all the additional problems that seem to happen, the farther you get into the game, I'm not entirely sure if I would continue liking it after that point. But from what I played, I would definitely give this an 8 out of 10. It's a fun arena shooter. The missions afterwards are actually entertaining to play, even if they drag on a bit. And I like the way a good portion of the vehicles actually handle. And I love the soundtrack. It suffers horribly from not having a map, but that's really one of the only major problems that the game has.
Yeah. And like we've said quite a few negative things, but there are a lot of positives in this game, and this game does have potential to be a good game.
If you ever get bored of Star Fox and have 2 other players, play this.
Yeah, this is great to play if you have some friends around. This is great to play if you just want to like play like a short sort of game where you don't necessarily want to play through all the levels. This game for a hardcore player, I'd say go for it if you want to play through it. I wouldn't say that for someone who's a casual player. I'd say play like the first 3 levels, because this game is probably going to kick your butt.
Yeah.
It has a great soundtrack, even though you can tell it's on the loop. It's still pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
And everything else is just okay. But from the lack of not having a map, that would have enhanced the game a lot. I'm going to give this game a 7 out of 10.
Right. And with that, I think that wraps us up.
Yeah, so, thanks for listening, guys. I mean, we tried this once before, and this is our second go at it, but thanks for sticking with us.
Alright then, guys. This has been the Random Podcast of Awesomeness, and I am Gurdett14.
And I am Shadow Wolf.
Be safe, and next time we meet, we will be looking at something else.
Yes, take care.